What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online as usual. Tonight I'm going to do something a little bit different. If you're somebody who's been watching my channel for a while and already investing in, fractional real estate, this might not be the most useful video for you. Although if you're talking to, friends and family who are like, "Hey, why are you doing this? What's going on?" Maybe it'll give you some good talking points to explain, why it is that you invest in fractional real estate. But today I just want to talk. I've got a whole bunch of new followers or a whole bunch of new people watching the channel, and so I wanted to jump in and talk about why you might want to invest in fractional real estate. And I want to start off and say, definitely don't just take my word for it. Do your own due diligence. Check out all the platforms. Check out, the properties themselves. Make sure that you're comfortable with the risk and all that. I'm not saying I'm going to show you the 5 platforms that I'm currently invested in, some piece of real estate on, real estate or mortgage. But it doesn't mean that those are the ones that you should pick. There's plenty of others. It also doesn't mean that any of the particular properties that I have are the right ones for you. Um, but so why would you want to invest in fractional real estate though in general? I mean, I think the number one reason is there's low barrier to entry, right? Like I have built a decent sized portfolio, getting pretty close to. I think in the next couple of months I'll end up having a 6 figure portfolio on here. Not from gains. I mean, just from me slowly investing, some of my money from other stuff over time. But it's taken me, I've been working on this about 6 months, picking up properties here and there, getting comfortable, adding a little bit more. But I've done it all from my couch, right? You see me, if you've been watching some videos, you see me doing this every day. I don't get off the couch. So I think it's a great, very low barrier to entry. You don't have to, it's not like if you're an introvert, this is one of the easiest ways to invest in real estate, right? You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to go to networking events. I'm not cold calling or, dialing for dollars or any of the things that you hear about for that. If you're kind of a slacker, I think it's good for you too, right? You don't have to go and look at a whole bunch of properties. I do think you have to do the work online, right? You have to do your due diligence on properties, not just like randomly buy whatever you want. But as far as once you've done that, once you've actually looked through all the due diligence material that you can, you just buy the property with a couple of clicks, right? And so super low barriers to entry. I think that's, really the biggest thing, right? Not having to talk to people, not having to, and for some people that's not great, right? They want to talk to people. They're not like, um, and that's there's discords and there's so far I'm not aware of any in-person meetups or real life events like we have in real estate all the time, for fractional real estate. If somebody wants to start one of those, I'd love to talk to you about it. I'm definitely not going to do that myself, but if I could help out and help put something like that together, I think that'd be interesting. I know, I've been to tons of them for, when I worked in commercial real estate and for real estate investors in general. But I don't know if there's any in-person events for fractional real estate investing yet. But there's definitely a lot of online ways to talk to other owners, like through the discords for some of the platforms. Through my Discord, you can see that in there's a link in the description below. Before I forget, please do like and subscribe. And there's links to any of the platforms that I'm invested in. There's links below. There may be free money if you sign up through using them. There may not be. It depends on the site and what they're doing right now. A lot of times they change them, but just want to throw that out there. And then there's a link to the Discord where we just talk about fractional real estate investing in general. Any platform, it doesn't matter which one it is. And I just wanted to create a separate space where we could, sort of badmouth some of the platforms sometimes, or talk about things that you don't want to necessarily talk about on their own, channels. And so that's, I'm not trying to just foster negativity, but I just, it's a place that you can be a little bit more comfortable and open criticizing some of the stuff going on. Now you can see I'm using ScreenPal. Okay, let's see. Um, then aside from that, and how easy it is, one of the biggest things is, and as far as the other thing with low barrier to entry, if you're investing on Ground floor, you can see I've got a whole bunch that I just stuck 20 bucks in recently, but you can put as little as $10, per deal on here. So like you don't have to put a whole bunch of money to get started. So like very low barrier to entry there. If you're on Lofty, I pick up, tokens in the teens pretty regularly. So you can get a small piece of a property for, 18, 15, 20 bucks a lot of times, depending on the property. If you're on Mogul, I think it's 250 is the minimum currently. Collab seems to be all over the place. This is one that I only own one small piece of a property. I own a piece of this one. I am not wholeheartedly recommending them whatsoever. But on any of them, you want to do your own due diligence. I might have just picked a dog on here. I'm just not really sure. Saul's Lot, I've got one, just one little DAC on this one as well. That's what these are. I actually don't know what DAC stands for, DAC. Um, at some point I did, but I don't at the moment. But so you've got these. I think I have a piece of this one. Um, this is a really new platform, and so there'll be more to come on that one. But I think that when I bought a piece of this, I think it cost me 350 bucks. But so any of those, if you're comparing it to investing in real estate in real life, you can start with a much smaller amount. But then the next thing, you get to diversify, right? In a way that you just really can't as a real estate investor. If you wanted to have properties all over the country and all different property types and different strategies and maybe, different managers, right? Like you wanted to have different people managing properties because some of them were great at one thing and some were great at another. You would have to have millions of dollars invested if you weren't doing it with fractional real estate. But over the last 6 months, I've picked up somewhere around 40 pieces of about 40 properties, over 110 pieces of mortgages. Um, all I think 14 or 15 states as far as for the properties themselves, and then more for the mortgages. Different strategies where there's single family rentals, there's short term rentals, there long term rental, short term rental, rent by the bedroom. There's some small multifamilies, um, student housing. I haven't bought any of the commercial ones yet. There's not a ton of great commercial on any of the platforms that I've looked at so far, but you can get very wide diversification across a number of different aspects of the properties. Um, Liquidity, right? Some of them they're pretty liquid, some of them they're not. So, like for example, ground floor, you don't have great liquidity. It's locked up for a certain period of time. Lofty has, very very much so. I can go on here and sell my tokens at any time. The downside to that is I might be stuck selling at a certain price, and I might tank the price if I am selling too much at a certain time. Mogul, we have, I think, no liquidity whatsoever at the moment. Collab, I think, is the same. Saul's Lot, I think that you can sell your DAX because I hold it in my own wallet. I don't know, I'd have to find someone to buy it. I don't think that I can list it on their platform or anything. That's something that'll be interesting to find out in the future. But so there is, depending on which platform you're on, you might be able to get money back right away, or you might have, set periods of time where you're getting paid. I know like Mogul and Collab are paying out monthly. Ground floor pays out at the end of each mortgage note, and so those tend to be somewhat sporadic. It's just whenever the borrower pays them off, and there is a time frame for the longest they can hold it, but a lot of them pay off early. So you do get liquidity in a way that you don't with real property. If I own a home, it takes me a little while to sell. One of my favorite things is there's no personal debt involved, right? Like I don't have to qualify for a mortgage. I don't have to sign on a mortgage. A lot of properties that I own pieces of, especially like Mogul, every single one of these has that I own a piece of anyway. I don't know, they might have other ones, but I think I own pieces of 4 properties on here now. Uh, I guess this transaction didn't go through yet, but you can see they have a mortgage, but I didn't have to sign for it. I'm getting the benefit of the leverage. That it is, I'm still taking some risk because it is, affecting my investment, but I'm not having to sign on that whatsoever, and that, is a real advantage, especially to someone who like me, who's a pretty risk averse investor. I try to always think about the downside and things. One of the things that I like a lot about it is you can learn a lot while you're making a return, right? As a lot of these platforms, like for example, Mogul is run by guys who know a lot about picking these properties. If you're somebody who endeavors to buy properties in real life eventually and have a a larger in-person portfolio, maybe even be someone who brings properties to some of these platforms, y- you know, uh, there's a lot that you can learn from the way these guys do business, or a lot of the individual co-owners on Lofty. You can learn a ton from. If I was somebody who was saving up for my first investment property, I might put that money to work on one of these platforms. Let it start to compound, and also really follow along. What are they doing? What strategies are working? What deals did I think were good up front? And oh my goodness, they tanked, within a couple of weeks. Like all of that stuff, I think is important to do. So you get to learn while you earn. And one that I don't know that I've ever really mentioned on this channel is that you get immediate compounding. So what do I mean by that? So um, whenever I'm, looking at deals in real life, I always put my spreadsheets together. I did this for, public REITs. I did it for private equity companies, but spent a lot of time, modeling real estate acquisitions. And we always, you'd always look at your internal rate of return. And one of the things that a lot of people are pretty lazy about is they just assume that you're going to get to continually reinvest that money instead of, the right way to do it is actually pick what your reinvestment rate is if you have some other option that you know what you want to do. But typically, people ignore that and they just do, they model it just assuming that you're going to be able to compound any money that comes off. Well, in real life, you can't really do that if you own individual properties, right? Like I buy a property, I start to get cash flow. Okay, now it stacks up and it's just sitting in my bank account, and I can't put it to work immediately until I find that next property, and that takes a while to get a big chunk. Well, on Mogul, I got a payment of 50 bucks as my little dividend this month, and I immediately, within a few days, just bought a piece of some more. Now you're confined by the minimum investment, right? And so right now I don't own enough on the platform that I am getting enough dividend yet to just buy a piece every time. Although there is an automatic reinvestment option. I didn't want to do that because I want to be able to pick my properties. Um, but with those issues aside, all I did is add a little bit extra money on top of the money that I had, and then okay, I'm immediately getting ownership in something new, and it's going to continue to compound. The same thing. I feel like I'm saying compound funny, but I don't know what's funny about it. It is after midnight. I'm tired, and I sorry if I'm talking weird. But the same thing, like if you've heard me talking about my discounted token strategy, and I'm always annualizing the returns because it's taking me when I'm trading them, I might be making a decent return in just 3 or 4 months, sometimes even shorter. Um, and a lot of times it's kind of stupid to assume, to annualize returns because it's going to take a long time before you can put that money to work again. But today I sold 4 or 5 tokens, not a ton of money, in one property that I bought it at 17 bucks. It went up to 24. So I sold those and immediately, like within minutes, put that money back to work in another property. Um, that's just not something that you can do when you're buying whole properties. Even if you had unlimited capital to do it, the time involved in buying that next deal is just so much greater. um, so you take all of those things together. I've been talking quite a bit about how this might be a good way to get started in real estate. And I think that's true, but I think for the right person, it's probably just the right answer for investing in real estate in general. Now, is it today? Maybe not, right? Like if I had, like, I'm not selling everything I own to dump it all on these platforms yet, right? Like I'm still taking my time and experimenting with them and trying to figure out how they work. But I can imagine someday in the future where I own no properties in real life and all of that cash is just moved on to platforms like this. Especially the passive nature of it for me is just fantastic, right? Like not having to actually go and do anything. The I don't know if you've been watching this for a while, you've probably picked up on the fact that I'm quasi disabled. That's why my real estate business I run 100% from my couch. And now, I was actually most of the time in the last few years when I've gotten off the couch, it's to look at my personal investment properties, not to deal with my real estate agent business because I have team members that do all of that. And so, moving to something that is just truly passive, and I say passive, it's not passive, it's couch money, right? Like you need to do some work, but all the work is on your computer, right? Like you need to do your due diligence on the computer. You might need to talk to some other co-owners of properties, depending on which platform, to help them, get on board with whatever decision making you've got going on. So it's not, depending on the platform, it might not be just to set it and forget it. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But for it's definitely something that you don't ever have to go out into the world and do something. And so, for the right people, I think that this could be just a tremendous opportunity. Once we really have worked out which platforms are the winners, and like I said, I mean, just because I'm invested in these ones so far, these first three, ground floor, lofty, mogul, that's where I see the most opportunity for me today. I see a lot of potential in Saul's Lot. Um, I'm kind of scared by Collab. I think that they're professional investors, but I don't know that they just don't seem to be servicing us as investors very well at the moment. And then, you have your arrived homes, which a lot of people like. For me, their stated returns are too low. Like if you just believe they're going to hit their numbers, I'm still just not happy with it. But they're going to be doing some secondary market trading, and then I've talked about that in other videos, and then maybe it'll work for me. Same thing with Arc 7, but there's a whole bunch of them out there, right? And so I think that over time we'll figure out which ones are work and which ones work for us, which ones don't. It's a big part of why I'm working on this community and why I'm welcoming all you new people in today. I think if you watch this video, it's probably because you're still on the fence about investing in fractional real estate. The the good news is you can do it with 10 bucks. You can do it with 50 bucks. You can, buy a piece of this thing for 250 bucks. It's kind of accessible almost, for virtually everybody, right? I mean, especially if you have a computer and you're watching YouTube, you probably can invest 10 bucks at some point in time in a piece of a mortgage on ground floor, or you can buy. And by the way, I have heard if you're new and you sign up, you might only see this flywheel portfolio, but you can get a link that will show you the individual LROs. Um, I'm curious if you signed up recently, if you've had this experience, and if you've managed to get access to the full suite of options or not. Um, but yeah, 10 bucks, or even in the flywheel portfolio, you can stick a dollar in there, right? So like you can get started with any of these. Although that stops sort of it's really more, that's a REIT. It's not really fractional investing anymore. But if that was where my budget were at, I wouldn't let that stop me. And really, depending on what your goal is, it might be the right answer for you as well. Um, I think let me just look at my list. I think that's really everything, all the reasons I've come up with so far why fractional real estate investing, I think, is just, has advantages. And the other one is if you are someone like me so I love finding deals. It's always been the part of real estate investing that I was good at. I'm not the best operator. I'm not, you know, I'm really good at, I worked in jobs where I had to like audit books and keep track of other investors. But if I have to keep my own books, I hate doing it. And I know that about myself. And so like I've always hired third party managers to do stuff. And this is like one additional step of outsourcing, right? Like you're using a third party manager, but in many of these platforms, you also have somebody who's acting in sort of an asset manager role. And so if you're someone who wants to spend a lot of time, find the good deals, and then not really have to do a whole lot with them afterwards, could be a good fit for that as well. So I think that's why one of the reasons I've gotten really excited about it, because I can look at new deals every single day. Maybe put a little bit of money to work on some of them, maybe not, but not have, and then get involved in the decision making, like especially on Lofty. If I see a property and it seems like it's not going the way I want, I can get involved with the decision making. But if everything's running smooth, I just leave it alone, and it's not my job to, keep track of any of it. And so that's an advantage to me. It is like the slackers. If you're a complete slacker and you want to invest in real estate, I think it's one of the best ways to go. But do not slack on your due diligence, right? That is uh, the one thing that that what worries me, and one of the reasons I harp on this so much is it's really clear that that is what a lot of the people that invest on these platforms are doing, is they're kind of just like, I like the way that looks and buying it. And also, due diligence also includes like your oversight of whoever is running those properties once you own them, right? Like, yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not great at, I'm not the most organized person, but I am somebody who is going to every month look at every property I own, see what updates we got from, the manager, make sure things make sense. Um, I'd hate to be the PM that's actually doing that work every month, but I actually do get into digging through those and seeing like, hey, is everything, does this all make sense, right? And so then, um, so that's why I say it's not completely passive, right? Like you want to actually, do the work, continue to do the homework, stay on top of stuff. Um, but it is, you know, I'm never swinging a hammer or anything like that. Anyway, that's really all I want to share about it. If you've, if somehow you've gotten to the end of this video and you're an experienced, fractional real estate investor, and you think there's um, other advantages that I didn't mention, I'm really curious what those are. Please share those in the, drop a comment below or jump in our Discord and talk about it. If you're new and some of those things didn't really make a lot of sense to you, or you've got some questions about them, feel free to ask, because this is really all I talk about these days. I have way too much fun with it, and I'm happy to chat on the Discord and the comments. There's some people that have, DM me through Twitter. I'm always on there. Um, However you want. In any case, that is it for me today. Until next time, I'm going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.